A reading from the book of Revelation. I, John, heard a voice from heaven speak to me. Then the voice spoke to me and said, "Go, take the scroll that lies open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went up to the angel and told him to give me the small scroll. He said to me, "Take and swallow it. It will turn your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will taste as sweet as honey." I took the small scroll from the angel's hand and swallowed it. In my mouth it was like sweet honey, but when I had eaten it, my stomach turned sour. Then someone said to me, "You must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "How sweet to my taste is your promise. In the way of your decrees I rejoice, as much as in all riches. How sweet to my taste is your promise. Yes, your decrees are my delight, they are my counselors. How sweet to my taste is your promise. The law of your mouth is to me more precious than thousands of gold and silver pieces. How sweet to my taste is your promise. How sweet to my palate are your promises, sweeter than honey to my mouth. How sweet to my taste is your promise. Your decrees are my inheritance forever, the joy of my heart they are. How sweet to my taste is your promise. I gasp with open mouth in my yearning for your commands. How sweet to my taste is your promise.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered the temple area and proceeded to drive out those who were selling things, saying to them, "It is written, 'My house shall be a house of prayer,' but you have made it a den of thieves." And every day he was teaching in the temple area. The chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people, meanwhile, were seeking to put him to death. But they could find no way to accomplish their purpose, because all the people were hanging on his words. The Gospel of the Lord.
Reflection. What do God's acts of judgments teach us? Do they inspire reverence for God and for His holiness and majesty? Few seem to pay much attention to God's judgments today. His acts of judgments, nonetheless, are intended to bring us into greater purity, holiness, and reverence for God's word of truth and love. Jesus went to Jerusalem, knowing he would meet certain death on the cross, but victory as well for our sake. His act of judgment in the temple is meant to be a prophetic sign and warning to the people that God takes our worship very seriously. In this incident we see Jesus' startling and swift action in cleansing the temple of those who were using it to exploit the worshippers of God. The money changers took advantage of the poor and forced them to pay many times more than was right, in the house of the Lord no less. Their robbery of the poor was not only dishonoring to God, but unjust toward their neighbor. In justification for his audacious action, Jesus quotes from the prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah. His act of judgment aims to purify the worship of God's people and to discipline their erring ways. Despite the objections of the religious leaders, all the people present stood in awe of Jesus, and they hung upon his words. The Lord disciplines and chastises us in love to lead us from the error of our ways to his truth and justice. God disciplines us for our good, that we may share in his holiness. Do you worship God with reverence and gratitude for his mercy, and do you submit to his word with faith and obedience? Lord, you open wide the door of your house, and you bid us to enter confidently, that we may worship you in spirit and truth. Help me to draw near to you with gratitude and joy for your great mercy. May I always reverence your word, and give you acceptable praise and worship.